The mission of D.R.E.A.M is to fund research projects and educational programs to discover a cure for diabetes and benefit those with diabetes and other childhood diseases. In the United States, over 15,000 children are diagnosed with diabetes every year. These children will be dependent upon insulin for the rest of their lives. For these kids, diabetes is the shadow in the corner, lurking every minute of every day.
We at the University of Michigan see about 80 to 100 new patients, so new children who are newly diagnosed with diabetes on an annual basis. Not only is the incidence of type 1 diabetes increasing, that is a phenomenon that we still don't have a good explanation for, but it is increasing. But also it is the younger children who seem to be getting more of this diabetes.
Meet Scott and Karen Grodman. Both of their sons were diagnosed as toddlers.
Our lives have never been the same since then. Taking care of my first child with diabetes was, it was hard. And 15-month-olds don't sit still to drop blood on a meter, so that was very hard. I'd have to give him shots throughout the day, and I've never given shots to anybody, and I didn't know if I was doing it right. I didn't want to give the wrong amount, and it's very scary giving a shot to a kid who you don't know if they're going to eat anything after you give them the shot. They're supposed to eat afterwards. It was definitely a challenge to have a little baby who couldn't talk and tell you how they were feeling. And the only way to know would be to check his blood sugar, sometimes 10 times a day. And there'd be blood everywhere on his clothes, just in the high chair. And it was hard. I really didn't want to take my kid out of the house because it was too hard.
When Tyler was diagnosed, it was a nightmare. And it's still a nightmare.
Children with diabetes look normal to you and me. Here is one of the realities of living with a diabetic child. Even if you do everything right, sometimes things go wrong.
It's not unlikely that at some point in time, I might find Tyler unconscious because for some reason his blood sugar just dropped too low too fast. I would have to give my son this shot while I'm waiting for the ambulance to arrive. I'd have to mix up this solution and put this needle into an unconscious child.
Adolescents can be a tough age with diabetes because they are trying to find their role in the world, so to speak, adolescents. On top of that, you put all of these responsibilities and you instantly go from being a child to an adult, and that's a tough process.
I try really hard to make sure Tyler understands the seriousness of his diabetes. On the other hand, we try not to make that big a deal about it because we want him to live his life as normal as possible.
I say diabetes does not cause adolescent problems, but it is like putting it under the microscope. Every problem becomes a big issue when your child has diabetes. So the fact that he or she did not come in at 9 o'clock at night, missed the shot, that becomes, normally you would say, okay, you get, you're grounded for one day and say, all right, next day you're back. But here you missed the shot, maybe you were in ketoacidosis, you need to go to the ER, whatever, or in all of these. So it's like putting this, and so the stress on the family during adolescence is really tough.
He always has to be prepared. When he goes out to the soccer field or when he goes to the amusement park, he might have to have a fanny pack with him because he always has to carry a juice box and his tester and his insulin pump supplies. So I'm always worried that maybe he just wants to take a break from diabetes.
Dr. Menon's immediate goal is to reduce diabetes and its long-term consequences to something as insignificant as a common headache.
We will make advances in trying to bring this disease to that headache level, which I talked about, only by doing research. And things are so different. Insulin was diagnosed in the early 90s, 1920s, 1930s. And from there to now, we made so much advances. And all of that is because of research.
One of D.R.E.A.M's key objectives is to fund the formulation of new and innovative therapies.
It gives us an opportunity to research ideas and thoughts that researchers have that we normally can't get funding for. And that makes a big difference because as we research those things, we find out that the ideas have merit, and once we can prove the ideas have merit, we're able to capitalize and bring in more funds. And that makes a huge difference in exploring these new ideas and bringing about change and thought on how we treat diabetes.
D.R.E.A.M has partnered with the University of Michigan's C.S. Mott's Children's Hospital to fund research in pediatric endocrinology and childhood diabetes. Research has made great strides, but we need to do more. In their lifetime, let's grant one wish for Jared, Adam, Tyler, and other kids like them.
To not have diabetes.
Let's help these kids reclaim their childhood. Let's find the cure.